So it's fantastic to see you all here this afternoon, and it's really nice for me because I've been giving these kind of presentations online for 2 years, so it's wonderful to see a room full of people who are here and keen to learn more about the opportunities that there might be for a development trust here. So as Caroline said, I work for the Development Trusts Association Scotland, and my role is to support communities who would like to set up development trusts. So this isn't a sales pitch for DTAS membership at all. I support communities whether or not they want to be members of our organisation, but it's just to tell you more about this approach, how and why communities set up development trusts, and give you some examples of where it works really well, so that you can have a think about whether this might be something that you would find positive in your area. So DTAS is the National Network Organisation for Development Trusts. We are independent and member-led, and we have over 300 members. You can see them on the map there, and I bought a map that's on this stand as well. So they stretch the real kind of length and breadth of Scotland, right from the Ernst Partnership in North Shetland down to the Portpatrick Community Development Trust in Dumfries and Galloway. All of our members are incredibly varied, and I'll talk more about the kind of activities that they do later on, but they're all committed to bringing about the social, economic and environmental renewal of a geographic area. So they want to create wealth in communities and keep it there. And for people who are interested in legal structures and those kind of things, I don't know how many people that applies to, but just to say that a development trust isn't a specific legal entity. So it's more of an approach to community-led development, and we can support, if it was something that you wanted to set up, we can support with the kind of establishment of that, if that's something that you wanted. But it's an approach rather than a specific, it doesn't have a basis in law or a statutory body to regulate it. So specifically, development trusts have 4 characteristics, and they're on the slide there. So they are independent and community-led. So that means having an open membership which is representative of the community and is non-discriminatory. So that's what really sets them apart from some other organisations. The membership is open to everybody, and that membership is in control of the organisation. So a development trust is democratically accountable to the community through that membership. It's independent of other interests, and works to a defined community agenda arrived at through community consultation. So it's fantastic to be able to start with a community action plan. That is something that is the first thing that a lot of development trusts look to deliver. So to already have one in an area is really, really good, because whatever a development trust does, it's really important that it's what the community needs. And this can kind of take a lot of different forms. Second, as I said before, they are engaged in the economic, environmental and social regeneration of a defined area. So that means they're not single action groups, and they're looking to deliver on that real range of community priorities, so quite a breadth of different projects. Third, they are committed to working in partnership arrangements that are initiated by the community. So a fantastic thing that lots of our members do is support other community organisations in their areas. So a development trust will typically have a bank account and become quite experienced in writing funding applications. It might have members of staff, and that means that it can support some smaller community groups who maybe don't have all of those things to enable them to deliver on what they're looking to do. So that's a really positive way that they can work in partnership. It might also be kind of more formal partnerships with the private or public sector, but it would always be bottom up and driven by the community. And then last and most importantly, development trusts are enterprising. So they work towards financial sustainability by generating their own income. And that really gives them the opportunity to look ahead, to look to the future, plan long term, and not always have to be kind of chasing funding applications and things like that. So They do this in a real range of ways that I'll talk more about, but it's through things like renewable energy schemes, music venues, they run hospitality businesses, all sorts of things. But it's really giving the community that opportunity to generate some wealth and enable sustainability. So it can sound like quite a lot, especially if you're one of the people who think you might want to take this forward, but we appreciate that it doesn't all come at once, and together we think of this as a kind of best practice framework for community-led regeneration. So probably what a lot of people might be thinking is why set up a development trust, why use this model? We get asked quite a lot about why this is a good vehicle to use. So there are a few points on the slide that you can read, but we really find that development trusts work because they are set up, owned, led and operated by the community. So there's that vested interest that everybody has to make sure they're a success, because it's your community, it's where you live and it's where you work, and it's about creating that sustainability and making sure that your community stays a really wonderful place for many generations to come. So development trusts have that really emphasis on making sure that everyone in the community supports them. They're that grassroots, bottom-up organisation, and that means that very, very few development trusts, I can probably think of 3 out of 400, don't end up kind of succeeding, that they might have problems. And if that does ever happen, it's usually because that support in the community might not be there. So when it comes to setting up a development trust, the formalities, as I've said, that's something that DSAS can help with a group of people who might want to take this forward together. So it's nothing too much to worry about, and there's lots of support available. But that really important thing is that second bullet point. So it's stimulating local interest, getting involvement from local people. Everybody here today would have a really important role to play, whether that would be as a member, as a volunteer, and possibly joining the board. But it's that making sure that everybody's in this together, and by starting off with having a community plan, it's a really, really good place, because it will make sure that a development trust would be delivering on what the community really, really needs, and that's based on hopefully all of your voices. So there isn't a kind of step-by-step chronological or linear process for setting up a development trust, because every community is so different and motivated to look at the model for different reasons. But typically a community would start with a community plan, so that's a really positive place to begin. And then that would usually lead to a steering group of people who wanted to take this forward together. And the job of that initial steering group would be to ensure that the development trust is there to meet community needs. It would usually form the first de facto board of the organisation, and it would work with the development trust up to the point of its first AGM, at which point everybody would stand down but be eligible for re-election by the membership. So it's that initial step where there's a steering group of people taking things forward, and they're looking to gather a membership, work on some smaller projects, so kind of starting off small and building up, and making sure that that development trust is really showing that it's an effective and democratic organisation. And then following on from that, basically the sky's the limit, and then some really big exciting projects can happen. I won't talk to all of you about this, but the group of people, if you do want to set up a development trust that would like to, I can go through legal structures of development trusts with. And now I'll just talk a bit about kind of examples so that you can see how it looks in practice. So I don't expect you to read this slide in any detail, but it's to kind of show you the scale or the variety of the different activities that development trusts undertake. So it's basically whatever you can think of, whatever your community needs. We have members who have service level agreements with local authorities, who run bed and breakfasts, who grow food, who run community facilities, and we even have that one right at the end. You might not be able to see it, but one of our members runs a nightclub, and that's the Bongo Rooms in Edinburgh, run by Out of the Blue. So whatever the community wants, it's possible for a development trust to do, and there's so many exciting examples of different ways that they generate income and make sure that their communities are even better places to live, work and visit. So one example of one of our members who's really, really good is Huntley Development Trust. So they are in Aberdeenshire. They were set up in 2009 when the Aberdeenshire Towns Partnership identified that a development trust would be a good vehicle to take forward some community needs. They really started with looking at how they could generate a sustainable income stream. So they built their own wind turbine, and they've done a range of projects since then, always based on community needs. The big one that they're working on now is the redevelopment of a former department store in the town centre, which is a really big asset that was really important to the community and was sadly lying empty, which they're turning into a community hub, which will have co-working space, a cinema, a restaurant and a cafe. And that was also in response to some feedback from people in the community that they felt like there was nothing to do in Huntley in the evenings. So this hub will provide that kind of social space for people to meet. Along the line, they've also delivered on some smaller projects, so some path building. They've got an amazing active travel hub, which brings together a lot of different, there's e-bikes, community minibuses, quite a range, and that active travel hub kind of manages all of those and ensures that people in the community can access them. The whole way through, they've ensured that they've consulted with the community, and they're now working on a master plan for the regeneration of the whole town. And then another good example is Dunblane Development Trust. So they started similarly to here with a community plan that was worked on with STAR. And they have quite a few different working groups which deliver on different areas. So this includes running a community centre. They also have an e-bike hire scheme, subgroups dealing with different topics, including the environment. And then they're working on, at the moment, looking at a town app which people could use. And they've also developed some maps to help people travel and enjoy Dunblane. So those are just a couple of examples to show you what's possible, and they might be similar to what could happen here. I won't talk through the others because I don't have too much time, but I will. I've got some printouts of these slides and I'll be around afterwards, so if you want to hear about any other examples, then do ask. So lastly, just to talk a bit about DTAS. So we run two programs, the Community Ownership Support Service, which provides support to communities to take on community assets, and the Community Shares Scotland programme, which supports communities to raise finance through community shares. So that's definitely something that if there were any of the community groups here who'd like support, they can help with, but also that a potential development trust here could benefit from. And then to show you about the scale of the development trust movement. So this is from 2019. So it's a wee bit out of date now, but in 2019 there were almost 10,000 volunteers of development trusts across Scotland, almost 55,000 members of development trusts. We had 270 members, now we've got 340 now, and yeah, you can see that there's over 2,000 board members. So it is a tried and tested model. A lot of communities have done this and found it really successful. They've also learned a lot of lessons along the way. So if this is something that you think would be a positive thing here, then we can definitely help with putting people in touch with those development trusts who've gone before, so that they can share some of their experiences, which is a really valuable thing. And then I wanted to show you some of your neighbouring development trusts. So you might be aware of some of them, but if not, it's always a good idea to go and pay them a visit. Always friendly and wanting to share their experiences, so do kind of check out them. And if anybody's really keen and would like my slides, I can send you them, and that's got the links to their websites as well. So I'll finish off now and thinking about the kind of next steps for you in your community. Now you've got this fantastic community action plan. It feels like a really, really good time for you if you wanted to have this organisation that could make some of these priorities a reality. It will need the support of the whole community, as I said, so whether that is to volunteer, to join the board or to be members, but it's something that should be open to all of you and that you should all feel welcome to be involved in. So I hope, as Caroline said, that it's something that you might want to be involved in, and I'll be around afterwards, just here, if you have any questions or you'd like to kind of hear more about it. So do come and have a chat. So thank you very much.